Hello and welcome to the podcast. For those of you who haven't seen this before or heard this before, my name is Hayley and I'm a manifestation coach. So I wanted to do a quick podcast today about limiting beliefs, because this is something that I wanted to chat about something that had happened to me recently, and I thought it was really important to share it because some of you might be feeling the same thing. So a limiting belief is something that you believe about yourself that is holding you back. It's limiting you. Okay. So these are things like I'm not tall enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not smart enough, all of those things, those stories that we tell ourselves or that we've been told in the past, and they are stopping us from doing whatever it is that we want to do. Okay. So I had an experience recently where I was confronted with a limiting belief. So some of you may know that I recently did something called Project 23. So this is 23 things that I'm hoping to achieve by the end of the year, something that I want to feel, do, experience, or manifest. So I have a list of 23 things, and it sounds like a lot, but it's actually some really fun things, some really simple things, just to remind me that life is meant to be fun and to bring it back when I just want to enjoy life a little bit more, So I had on my list, one of those things is to go overseas. So it wasn't on my plan to go overseas this year. I've already been overseas. I went to New Zealand. And some of you may know I got stuck there with all of the rain that happened in Auckland. But I love to travel. It's one of my things. I've been to 50 something countries now, and I always want to go overseas to experience different cultures, different lives. It's something that really lights me up. So I put it on my list as a bit of a dream. Anyway, a friend of mine recently announced that she was going to get married. Now, she lives in Germany, and we went to Europe last year. So it wasn't on the cards to go and do such a big trip again this year. So I had written it off, and I'd said that I wasn't going to go. I really wanted to go, but it just didn't make sense to go. So she was starting to talk about the planning and everything that was happening, and I started to get a bit sad, and I was missing out. And we're really good friends, and I refer to her as my other half. We've lived together, we've traveled together, and I realized that not going to this wedding was really making me sad. So I started to work on my husband to convince him to come to this wedding, to go to this wedding. And he wasn't really that keen. We've just done a big trip. He doesn't love travel as much as I do. I mean, he really does, but for me, it's really important. And so I said that I was sad that I couldn't go. And he sort of looked at me and he's like, "Why aren't you going?" And I was like, "Well, it's a lot of money and I have to leave you guys. My daughter has got school and all these things." And he was like, "So I can manage all of this. It's totally fine." And I realized that I had been putting all of these limiting factors on myself. And so I thought about it, and I realized that not going was making me sad, and that I could go. There was actually nothing stopping me from going. And so I sort of had to sit down with myself and think about these limiting beliefs and think about why I really didn't want to go, or why I was holding myself back from going, really. And so I realized that I was hanging on to some limiting beliefs from the past, and I needed to let them go. So I booked a ticket. For 3 months' time to go to a wedding in Germany by myself. So I'm going solo for, I think, 10 days. And as soon as I booked the ticket, I felt relief. I felt happiness. I knew that this was what I needed to do, because I really have the motto that life is to be lived and to be experienced. And I knew that this would be a big fulfillment for me, and I really wanted to go. So I wanted to share some of my my thoughts around the limiting beliefs with you. I had 3 realizations that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is that limiting beliefs, they come from our past, okay? And that's exactly what it is. It's past. It's not now. So, I had the limiting belief that travel is expensive, and you save up to go on a holiday, and it's just not a thing that you do willy-nilly. It's a big deal. And I was sort of holding on to that belief. And I guess that was sort of true when I was a child. We traveled a fair bit, but only around Australia. We didn't really do any overseas trips. So to go overseas, especially if you live in Australia, is a big deal. So I was holding on to that, and I was like, oh, it's almost, to go to Germany is almost the furthest place that you can travel to from Australia. So I was holding on to that it was such a big deal, when in reality, it's not, it's going to be a 24-hour flight. And yes, it's long, but it's actually not as giant as people make it out in their heads. And I was still holding on to that. And then once I let go of that, I was like, well, I travel a lot. Why am I doing this now? Why is this such a big deal for me now? And I realized that my limiting beliefs had changed since I became a parent. And it was the thought of leaving my daughter and my family made me feel guilty. And I was thinking, well, now that I'm a mum, I can't just up and go away by myself, especially to go so far. And it was really interesting because, like I mentioned, I had done lots of traveling in the past, and to realize that this limiting belief had changed for me, that was the second realization, that it had changed. I was really shocked. I guess I thought I'd work through those things around travel and around my experiences, but yeah, having a child, I felt guilty leaving her. I felt guilty leaving my husband to be with her for the 10 days. And I felt guilty about spending the money on going on a holiday when it should go to our family. And in reality, it was my husband who said, no, you need to do this because it will make you happy. And that's what we all benefit from, is from you being happy. So I was really excited to have worked through that and to give myself permission to go, even though I'm a mum, and even though, I'm leaving them as such for 10 days. They're totally capable of staying by themselves for 10 days. They'll have a blast. So yeah, I just wanted to remind you that we have these limiting beliefs, and even when you work through them, they can change. So it's important to always reassess them. So if something comes up that's uncomfortable for you, lean into it and go, okay, why is this making me uncomfortable? What is it? Rather than shying away from it, actually give it some airtime, which is my third revelation, is when you give your limiting beliefs some airtime and you explore them and you say them out loud, it often takes away the power that they have. So for me, I was thinking in my mind, this is such a huge thing. And then when I started talking to my husband about it, he made me realize that it really wasn't. And it was just in my head that it was so big, So when we keep these things inside, they build up and they get bigger, and what we focus on grows. So this became such a big deal for me. But actually, when I broke it down and I spent some time talking about it, it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was, So I just want to encourage you to take some time to explore those things that are making you feel uncomfortable and realize what those limiting beliefs are, and talk about them, because are they still true for you? It's a big thing that I talk about in my course, is around limiting beliefs. Does that still serve you? Even if it might be true, is it still serving you? That's the bigger question. Okay. So if something that you're telling yourself isn't serving you and it's holding you back, it's time to let go of that belief. Okay. Because we really are capable of anything that we want to do, but we do have to work through those limiting beliefs that we have. So for me, this was a really powerful experience. And coming out the other side, I now have an amazing holiday to look forward to. I'm going to see one of my best friends get married. And I wouldn't have done that had I not leaned into the discomfort of saying, I'm really sad that I can't go. So I wanted to share this with you, and hopefully it resonates with some of you. And yeah, I just encourage you to think about some of those things, those stories that we're telling ourselves, or those stories that we've been told that are holding us back. So maybe when we do, we can move past them and actually take on some of those things we want to do or experience in life, and take on some new challenges. So I hope this has been helpful for you. We do talk a lot about limiting beliefs, like I mentioned in my course. Otherwise, you are welcome to DM me if you have any questions, but I hope this has helped, and I will drop in soon with another podcast about something that has helped me and hopefully will help you.